Deadrock is back, and we're starting off where we left off with Class F and Babel entering the human realm. And every single one of them love it. Like, they realize just how brighter and nicer it is than the underworld. Choco gets all excited when she gets to see birds, because apparently the underworld doesn't really have any nice ones like that. So Hani then decides to mess with her by calling her one of the crappy birds then. The only one who isn't excited is Babel. When he starts looking around, he says it doesn't feel right, like that something looks off. And Freya says, well, it's the human realm. It's obviously not going to be something that we're used to. And Babel just says, yeah, I guess. Heavily implying that that's not what he's talking about. And he will continue to do this throughout the chapter until it was finally revealed what may be the issue. Anyway, after Babel gets done trying to clear his thoughts, he then focuses on the issue. And that is Hani. Hani doesn't look like a human at all. And so he decides to disguise him as basically a fat Mexican. I don't know where Babel got it, but apparently he had a mariachi outfit ready just for Hani the entire time. In fact, everyone else starts laughing at him, and then points out that all he needs is a guitar to finish the outfit. He was then going to do something with Choco, but of course she's able to transform into her true form, Zalicia, the cat girl witch, and all she has to do is just put on a hat to cover her ears. What makes it funny is that literally everyone in Class F forgot that she could do that, and that her real form is a cat person. And they all point out that it's extremely awkward that she's a person, but this whole time she's been flying around as a bird, just pooping on people. And she's like, I've never done that. And so every one of them is really just having fun at this moment, except for Freya, who is, once again, still very depressed and angry about Yakuto's death. So, now that they're all ready, Babel then explains the situation with humans. He explains that all of them are extremely fragile and weak creatures, and they have a tendency to live very hard lives. This is why they're the species that heavily relies on gods, and worshipping them for their aid and help. Babel doesn't judge humans for this. In fact, he actually thinks it's a good thing as long as they're worshipping a good god. But unfortunately, most of them are worshipping the psychopath. So they enter the city that Babel's friend is from, and they're all super excited because, once again, this is all new to them. They've never seen a human before. They are really surprised they actually look a lot like the demons do. Well, except for the monstrous-looking demons like Hani. And it just feels like a giant playground that they can have fun in. Zelsia, Hani, and Ryzen decide they're just going to take off together and just explore the entire city, see what they can find. Hani specifically is looking for a guitar to finish his outfit, which is really funny. But yeah, those three are too excited to care about their mission at the moment. They just want to explore and enjoy their day. Freya's like, hey guys, we're on a mission, you can't just run off. But Makoto's like, it's fine, we can just split up. We don't all have to go see Babel's friend. It can just be the three of us. Speaking of Babel, he once again says, this feels off. Something is different than it was before. He just can't put his finger on it. And so the party split up into two groups. We got Hani's group that go off to have fun, and Babel's group that goes off to meet his friend. So Hani's group ends up in a restaurant, and they just start picking out all the food they get their hands on. Everyone in the restaurant then starts staring at them, for obvious reasons. I mean, they're being a ruckus and just being annoying at this point. Ryzen assumes that they're staring at Hani, assuming that he's not a real human, and so he jumps up and then starts screaming at everyone, which is the stupidest thing he could have done at that moment, because he basically just outed Hani as a demon. Fortunately, no one notices this. They just think this guy's just a rude jerk, just screaming in the middle of a restaurant. Fortunately, the owner of the restaurant is able to calm down the situation by just asking a very simple question. Can you all pay for this food? And that's when they all realize they have no human money at all. And so they start arguing how they're going to pay the bill. Zelsia then says, leave this to me, transforms back into Choco, and then ditches them. Now, she claims later on that she went to go look for help, but I don't believe her. I think she really just was ditching them to deal with the situation at that moment. I say this because it doesn't even look like she tried to go find Freya and the others. She just took off. With Hani and Ryzen left behind, the two start getting desperate to the point where Hani suggests Ryzen sell his sword. This almost starts a fight between the two of them, but fortunately everything is settled by a passerby. This short man wearing a skull mask. He pays their bill and they all leave the restaurant, and they walk towards what looks to be a fountain in the middle of town. Hani and Ryzen are really grateful. They're thanking the man for saving them. Zelka is still trying to talk like she went off to get help, but they're like, yeah, no, shut up, you're lying. The man then asked all of them a very simple question. You're all from the demon world, aren't you? Of course, they start freaking out because they're demons and they just got recognized as demons by a human. But the man is like, hey, don't worry, this is a liberated zone. And they're like, wait, what's that? He said, haven't you noticed the flags all over the place? The black and white dragons? And Zelka's like, well, yeah, but I figured they were just the nation's flag. And so the man explains, no, those flags belong to the liberation armies that are hung up in towns that have been liberated by the hero. So Freya's group finally makes it to the monastery, and the thing is run down. Babel opens the doors, and the whole place is destroyed. He starts calling out for his friend, Himiko, but she doesn't answer. As they're looking around, Makoto notices the place is basically run down, covered in cobwebs, and there's a high chance that no one's been here for a very long time. But Babel's like, no, I was here 3 months ago. That's not possible. Now, it was pretty obvious what was being hinted at right at the beginning of the chapter when Babel said things don't look right. But here it basically confirms it, and that's the fact that time flows differently in the underworld, in the human realm. We somewhat know how much time difference there is, because the man states that the hero has been fighting for the last 15 years. The thing is, when did this hero start fighting? Was it as soon as he got to the world, or did he have to grow up as a baby? If he was fully grown as soon as it started, then that means for every month in the demon realm, it's 5 years in the human realm. But if the person had to grow up, that means the time dilation is a little different, and it would actually be greater. But we can worry about that some other time. It assumes that this person is the one that destroyed this church and killed his friend. And when Freya points out those flags are all over town, he assumes that whoever this is took over the town, and so now Babel is ready to kill. Then we go back to Hani's party, and the man is still explaining what is happening. He basically tells all of them, well, God's true name, Alfred, and the hero, the one who is doing the liberating, has been fighting against God's forces on the surface in the human realm for 15 years. Of course, Hani and the others are super excited about this, because that means there are people who are already fighting against God's control in the human realm, and they actually want this guy to be their ally. And so they ask the man, okay, so where is this hero? And he says, oh, he's here in town. And so that's when we see the hero himself marching through town, waving to the people as they're all cheering and celebrating. The two groups then all coalesce in the giant square, watching as the hero is marching down the groups of people, waving and saying hello. One of the hero's men opens up a scroll and then makes an official announcement that they have liberated another town from God. Hearing this, now Freya's group now knows that the hero is also against God, and so they're all kind of confused on what's happening, because just a second ago they assumed this town had been enslaved by this guy. Makoto, being the smartest one there, figures out even before the reveal. So the hero takes off his mask, and it is revealed to be Yakuto. Well, the reincarnation of Yakuto. And the fact that he decided to declare war on God shows he still has all of his memories from 15 years ago when he was still a demon. Also, we get to see the identity of the man that was talking to Honey's group. It's Lip. Yeah, the god of the underworld. He reincarnated as a human as well. I don't know how he survived, because I could have sworn you had to pass through the gates to reincarnate, but apparently, if you're the god of the underworld, you can just reincarnate if you feel like it. You don't have to go through the gate. I really don't know. But yeah, Lip is alive, so good for him, I guess. Now, I do hope we stay in the human realm for a while longer, and we don't just immediately go back to the underworld as soon as Yakuto reunites with his friends, because there's still a lot of cool stuff that's happening in the human realm. I mean, Yakuto's been fighting for the last 15 years, so I hope this doesn't just end next chapter and we go back to the underworld. I would like to have 2 or 3 more chapters in the human realm, just to see what it's like. But yeah, this is a really solid chapter. A lot of world building. And anyway, if you enjoy this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up so you can enjoy more Deadrock and my things. Thank you, and have a great day.